Welcome to Abora Data Systems video tutorial. Updating attendance codes within Fusion. Attendance codes are used to define how time spent on different categories of attendance and absence should be treated. To begin, select Organization from the main icons, click on Time and Attendance and select Attendance Codes. To create a new or delete the attendance code, click on the relevant button. To amend an existing attendance code, double-click on the plan you wish to amend. Every category of attendance and absence that can be applied to an employee must have an attendance code record defined for it. For example, there is an attendance code record for normal attendance, another for absence without leave, another for late return from lunch, etc., and there could also be a code for annual leave, dentist appointment, business trip, etc. Each attendance code record defines what the minimum and maximum daily time values are, how many consecutive days the code can be active for, which code should follow on from this code if the maximum number of days is reached, etc. The code number provides the main reference for the record within its file. It is unique and is allocated by the system. It cannot be altered when creating or editing the record. A description must be provided to the attendance code. The description must be unique. That is not used by any other attendance code record. You can select a predefined code type from the following: not defined, AWOL, coded absence, flexi leave, normal, overtime and tardiness. The code type defines the nature or use of the code, and is used to determine which column the attendance code is listed under in the attendance summary report. Normal and overtime codes are listed under the attendance column, coded absence codes are listed under the absence column, AWOL and tardiness codes are listed under the lost time column, and flexi leave codes under the other column. You can select a predefined absence category from the following types: not defined, holiday, prenatal, and sick. This field is descriptive only and does not affect the time and attendance calculation logic. An accumulator code is a code used in the attendance summary report to total time accumulated against one or more individual attendance and absence codes. For example, this code, along with several other codes, may be used to describe sick leave, for example doctor's appointment, dentist visit, or hospital stay. By giving all the codes the same accumulator code, you are able to obtain a single total value. The accumulator code itself is simply an attendance absence code used to group together other codes. Any code that is to be summarized as a separate item should specify itself in its accumulator code. The absence duration field specifies the number of full days that an employee can be absent before the follow-on code describing the absence expires. Should the code expire, then the employee will be coded absent based on the code specified in the follow-on code field. This mechanism allows codes to be chained together across consecutive days. For instance, you can define a code that will give 1 day flexi leave, followed by annual leave by defining a flexi leave code, setting the absence duration to 1 day and setting the follow-on code to an annual leave code. Codes that are intended to operate entirely within the current day, for example a code for a dentist visit, should have the absence duration set to 0 days. Just as codes can be chained together across consecutive days by using the absence duration and follow-on code fields, they can also be chained together within a single day by using the overflow value and overflow code fields. Once the amount of time specified in the overflow value field has been credited to the current code on any particular day, time starts instead to be credited to the code specified in the overflow code field. For instance, you might have company rules that specify that after working 2 hours on overtime code A, you should start to be awarded overtime code B. To achieve this, you would define overtime code A to have an overflow value of 2 hours, and another overflow code with code B. If the overflow value is set to 0 or blank, no overflow processing will be carried out for the current code. By setting the credit constant field to a value of between 1 and 4, you can cause an absence code to receive a credit value that is fixed dependent upon the attendance plan currently being worked. Typically a full day's or half a day's worth of time are awarded. If the value of the credit constant field is set to 0, a fixed value will not be applied when this code is used. This percent rate allows you to allocate a value to time worked on the current code expressed as a percentage, where normal working is 100%. Most codes are set to 100%, but a code set up to register overtime at a time and half would be set to 150%. If operators is ticked, this indicates that the current code is available for operators to use when carrying out time account adjustments. If add to credit is ticked, this shows that any time worked on this code should be added to the person's credit total for the current accounting period. Both annual leave and business trip are examples of absence codes that would typically be set to add to the person's credit, whilst flexi leave is an example of an absence code that would typically not be set to add to the person's credit. Cardholders indicates that the current code is available for cardholders to use at card readers and also when using the optional web-based package Fusion Web to carry out time account adjustments. Typically absence codes such as annual leave, flexi leave or visit to dentist would be available to cardholders. Non-absence codes such as normal working and overtime would not be used by cardholders. Deduct lunch indicates that lunch deduction rules should be applied to the current code. If not ticked, no deduction will be made for lunch. Typical absence codes such as visit to dentist would require a lunch deduction, that is if the visit was over the lunch period, it would be expected that a standard lunch period would be deducted from the time accumulated on the visit to dentist code. It may be considered that lunch should not be deducted from codes such as business trip, because the person on the business trip could be assumed to be having a working lunch. Full day indicates that the current code is used to justify full days of absence, for example annual leave or flexi leave. Absence codes such as half-day flexi leave and visit to dentist would not be full-day codes. Rounding factor and rounding point is the amount of time accumulated on this code, subject to the application of the minimum credit and maximum credit rules, be rounded up or down according to the values in these fields, unless the rounding factor field is left blank or set to 00.00. Time worked is divided into periods each with a length equal to the rounding factor. If the amount of time worked extends into the final period by less than or equal to the rounding point value, time worked will be rounded down to the start of the period. If it extends beyond the rounding point value, time worked will be rounded up to the end of the period. For example, if a rounding factor of 15 minutes and a rounding point of 10 minutes are specified and 39 minutes of time are worked on this code, 30 minutes of time will be awarded. If 40 minutes are worked, 30 minutes of time will still be awarded. However, if 41 minutes are worked, 45 minutes of time will be awarded. If it is required that time should always be rounded down to the start of a rounding period, set the rounding point value to 1 minute less than the rounding factor value. If it is required that time should always be rounded up to the end of a rounding period, set the rounding point value to 00.00. If less than the minimum credit amount of time is spent on this code during any given day, the time will not be credited. An example of the use of this field is to prevent an employee gaining a time credit when recording absence in the middle of the afternoon using a half-day absence code. To achieve this, set the minimum credit value to the same as the length of the shortest half-day worked by any employee in the company. Maximum credit is the maximum amount of time that can be accrued by this code daily. Payroll code field allows the code to be allocated to an identifier that matches the identifier used by a payroll system. The field is not used by the Fusion system but is available to payroll systems that can communicate with the Fusion database. Click Save and Close to finish.